Yeah.
Okay. So how many of y'all listen to music every day and it's like an integral part of your life? I bet it's like maybe y'all do. Okay. So why? Music therapy specifically enhances verbal skills, processing of sound, and stimuli and tonic. It also helps fix damage of ear infections and helps with developmental delay and behavioral issues, along with strengthening self-awareness and body control and self-regulation. So hearing blockage and delays can include ear infection or hearing canal blockage. So ear infections can include fluid buildup in ears, such as from like food sensitivities or allergies or seasonal, or underdevelopment of ear canal. So if the ear canal is too small or too short, then the sound's not going to go through it properly. So basically, sound travels through the ear. It's going to hit the tympanic membrane and then vibrate and then go into the brain and stimulate the brain. But if there's a blockage, then the sound will just reach here, so it won't vibrate anything. So the brain won't be stimulated in any way. So also, you have to understand developmental delay to understand how music affects it. Types of developmental delay include speech delays, motor skill delays, just regular learning delays, and social, behavioral, or emotional delays. So when information is processed, the brain is activated and neurons fire. So this includes music. So when the brain hears music, neurons start to fire and it activates the brain. Behavioral issues include self-regulation and frustration tolerance. And mainly, I'm focusing on behavioral defensiveness, which is just if there's a stimulus, such as like when you have a tag in your shirt, we all get annoyed by a tag in our shirt. It's super annoying. But specifically, those who are very defensive, behavioral defensiveness, they will not be able to function with like a tag or whatever stimulus that is bothering them. They'll shut down, be tense, anxious, stressed, or even lash out in anger. So a lot of therapists deal with that. So if the child they're working with is angry about the stimulus they're experiencing, they'll kick in and will not participate in the therapy. And it's not fun for either the therapist or the patient. So to help these behavioral issues, we need vestibular input, deep pressure touch, and most importantly, movement. So you have to integrate the vestibular system in order to help these issues. So there's a couple of different issues with the vestibular system. So sensory modulation disorder is just issues with incoming stimulus and processing it into controlled movements. Also, the vestibular system includes the auditory system. So if the auditory system is all dysfunctional, then you're unaware of the source of sound. So the child can hear a source and not realize where it's coming from, and so therefore they won't be able to react to it properly. And being distressed by loud or unexpected noises or easily distracted. And speaking is better after physical activity due to the auditory system. Such as, I don't know if you'll see Gavin, the little boy that walks around with the headphones on in middle school. He's autistic and he's super sensitive to sound. So he wears those all the time because he's afraid that some sound is gonna be really loud and it's gonna scare him and he won't be able to function, so he just wears those all the time and it helps him. Also, the vestibular system dysfunctions are overreacting negatively to stimulus, which is what I just talked about, you know, being angry when like a tag's following you or something, things like that. So I specifically chose, there's multiple forms of music therapy, of course, but I specifically chose ILS. I brought a unit with me because it's one of the most successful. Here's why. So this unit uses bone conduction, and there's a bone conductor in the headset right here. And when the music plays, it vibrates depending on the level and depending on the frequency of the music. And control the music here with the iPod. And you can also control the level of bone conduction because they found that if you have too much bone conduction, then it'll vibrate too much, and when it stimulates the bones, and it travels to the ear, which stimulates the brain. Some people are too sensitive to that, and if it's too high, then the patient will get sick, and it won't be fun for the patient or therapist. So you can control it here, and you control the volume of the music here. So, and then also it includes air conduction, which is just basically in all headphones. It's just in here where the music plays. So I'm gonna pass it around. And there's also filters on the iPod that are grouped up specifically for the purposes they serve. So some of them are like concentration and body control, things like that. Specifically, ILS is also so successful because it integrates movement, because movement is what stimulates the brain. So, about the booklet. So there's all kinds of different, exercises as far as like you can do cross and crawl, switch on the hands, stimulates the brain, among with other things. So there's that. And a lot of ball work, so like you do the same thing, bounce a ball as somebody across from you, switch hands, bounce it, and switching the ball from hand to hand stimulates the brain, makes you think, really have to focus on it. And music helps children really focus on that. So it also includes frequency. So the level of frequency depends on the diagnosis of the child. So therapists, when prescribing, music therapy and working with them, they assess the needs of the child and therefore assessing the needs of the frequency content. So they'll start at a low frequency content and gradually get higher and higher because it just depends on how sensitive they're going to be to that frequency. So there's full spectrum frequency, which are just symphonies and serenades, full level, and then enhanced high is just they call heightened perception of frequencies, and then enhanced low enhances perception of low spectrum sound. So they're supposed to choose like the specific program and the frequency in order to best help the child. So I also thought the best way to kind of bring it all together and explain it better was to use a personal example. So most of y'all know my younger brother Wyatt, or at least seen him. He's only 6'2", you probably see him walking around the hall. But when he was 2, he had fluid buildup in his ears and ear infections, but he doesn't feel pain like we normally do. So therefore, we didn't know he had them until he was about 2 or 3. And the reason we found out is because he wasn't speaking properly. So like he was making noises and it was like the correct phonics and correct sound, but no actual words were being formed. So he was then diagnosed with ADHD, dysgraphia, and written expressive language delays and fine motor issues. And dysgraphia is issues writing, along with issues getting what you want to write, like from your brain onto like a paper. So one of his diagnoses is he could use a laptop rather than having to write it out by hand because it's more difficult. So my mom, she researched a lot, and she's actually the one who found the ILS system. It was in Colorado, and she researched and found it and brought it here and made Wyatt use it along with the therapy that he was, doing with other therapists. And the therapists were like, we know you're doing something different because he's progressing so much faster than any other patient you've seen. So they're like, what are you doing different? So she told them, using this ILS unit, and now they use it for every single patient they have. So one problem is that a lot of parents either don't realize their child has a problem, refuse to accept their child has a problem, or they're terrified about cost, terrified after their child because they don't understand what exactly is wrong with their child. Most people think that therapy is just serving the child, which it is serving the child, but also it's serving the parents. So how does this relate to Christianity? I chose Galatians 6:2, which says, carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. So therapists every day, they are carrying the burdens of parents, because parents, in most cases, other than my mother, don't know, how to help their child. They don't know any science behind it. They don't understand. So therapists and specialists who, have those degrees and have that knowledge are carrying the burden of the parents by helping their child every day. So basically, by serving children, you're serving the child, but you're also serving the parent. And by serving the parent, you are also serving, the child. And we're also called to help the poor, which obviously means, poor in money, but it also means poor in knowledge. So parents are poor in knowledge for the most part about their child and what their child needs. So therapists are like, this is how we help your child. This is what your child needs, and these are the problems that they have, and this is what we're going to do to help. And in my experience, all the therapists I've seen and worked with, their one focus is the child. So they'll do whatever it takes to get that child up to the academic development that they're missing because of all of the, vestibular delays and auditory delays and all things like that. So thank you for listening. Do you have any questions?
Awesome. Well done. Panelists, do we have any questions for Claire on the project?
Is this an area that you want to move into, Claire, professionally to serve the Lord?
I actually got a major in nursing, but I feel like it kind of correlates. I mean, you're still helping people, it's just a different way. But not specifically. I might help children because I've always had a love for children. But God might call me to serve them this way, and I don't know yet.
With the music therapy, how do you help a child with the ear blockage with the music therapy? Is there a different way of doing that?
So, like when children have ear infections, there's little tubes put in their ears, right. So it opens up the airway. So because they had the blockage, they missed like a whole stage of development, so they weren't able to hear forever. So it's like you have earplugs in and all the sounds muffled. That's basically what it's like. So they weren't able to hear. So the music therapy specifically helps re-establish the neural connections that were damaged through those ear infections and ear blockage and all that. So therefore, it's helping catch up with all the delays that they missed due to all the ear infections and things like that.
So it would have to come at a later time. Gotcha.
I have a couple questions. First of all, it seems like this is a very, I'm just thinking about the music right now.
Right.
Is there a specific orchestration that needs to take place? I mean, you got an iPod, but I'm assuming it's not just downloading your favorite top 10 or whatever.
I know, it's mostly like, it's all, there's no words, it's just, a lot of violins and things like that, and cellos and basses, just because they all produce different levels of frequency. A lot of, symphonies. It's mainly symphonies. I've actually, go back, that's actually me.
Oh.
So, I've used it. So it just depends on which, whatever the therapist wants to work on, such as, coordination, which is a common one.
Makes sense, because that could be layered very easily too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's mainly just that, yeah.
Second question real quick. I don't want to take too much time so we can get to the second presentation, but so the unit that was passed around, that was really cool. How much of this is like a self-contained system? Like I'm thinking in terms of a school. A school has a branch where they're trying to help learning disabilities and so on. Is this something that can be delivered to the school, or I guess another way of asking it, how much expertise is required to effectively perform this therapy?
Well, you have to get certified to work ILS, but it's really, my mom's taken it. I don't think it's that.
Well, I have a degree that allowed me to sit for the certification.
Yeah,
But most of it is occupational speech therapists who have licenses to be able to integrate it within their therapeutic practice.
It makes sense. Awesome. I love this. I love the presentation because it almost counteracts a lot of what we see, especially with younger kids, the tendency that a lot of folks want to over-medicate. A lot of folks want to pigeonhole a student into a particular, and so it just seems like
Yeah, and my brother, he was medicated for a little bit, but honestly, what made him, catch up as much is the ILS therapy. So like now, like his auditory processing is like really high just because he went through all of that therapy, and he's not on medication. He hasn't been for years because it has so many negative effects. So
yeah, awesome. All right, any other questions from our panelists? Students, I'm going to have to hold y'all back just because we got another presentation to get to. Any other questions? Awesome, well done, Claire.